Hi everyone, Lisa Gifford here and welcome. And today we are going to be doing our project for our March 2025 Sew and Show subscription box, and I actually have one right here in front of me. So we're going to open it up and see what we're going to be doing this month. Are you all ready? All right, here we go. It's a pretty box. What are we doing? Make your own crossbody bag. So we're going to be making the crossbody bag today, and I have a couple different variations I'm going to be showing you. So all the things that you're going to be getting in the box, everything in here is all that you need to be able to make the Martelli crossbody bag. And it has a pocket on the inside, but I wanted to also show you where this came from. It came from a project that I had done back in November, December, and it was made out of blue jeans. So I'm going to show you that one too. But everything in here so that you can make this amazing crossbody bag. This is the one we will be doing today. We'll be showing you how to make the strap with a lobster claw clasp and all the fun things to make this fringed crossbody bag. So what have we got? We have in this bag, we have a piece of fringe that you're going to be able to use for your bag or not. You can decide how you want to be doing it. Comes with a little sticker, and I'm going to open up some of the other goodies that's in here. So you have 1.5 yards of 1 inch webbing strapping in here. You have 1.5 yards of that. You're going to have 2 of the swivel 1 inch lobster claw clasps. You're going to have those. You're going to have 2, I believe they're 3/4 inch D-rings in here. You're going to have everything you need for a single snap. So all the pieces to make a magnetic snap, to add the snap. And there is an amazing tool that's in here also. There's also going to be a 1 inch slider because we're going to have our strap will be adjustable. So you'll have the 1 inch slider. There are Chicago screws in here. So these are Chicago screw rivets. So you're going to have 4 of those. I'll show you how to install those because you're going to have this cool tool in here. And this, I believe, is a screw hole punch. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sizes in here. So with the Chicago screws that you in here, I believe they are 6 millimeter. So you'll need to use one of the larger, like the second to the largest one of the hole punch. And I'll show you how to use this, the screw hole punch. And then you'll have the full written instructions that are going to be in here. And we did add a photo to your instructions. Then you're going to have the Martelli template. It is the Sew and Show crossbody template. So it comes 2 pieces. You get the large piece, and then you have the optional flap if you want to make it with the flap. And then you're going to have the lining fabric. Everybody's going to have the same lining fabric. You're going to have some fusible interfacing. It might be woven, it might be non-woven, but you're going to have a 15-inch piece of this. And then you're going to have the exterior fabric. So I've got the 4 different colors that we have here. You're either going to have one of these, and I'm trying to see what was in. Okay, this is a print that is by Hoffman, and it is called Hoffman Spectrum print. So I have 4 different colors here, so I'm not sure which one you're going to get, but we have one with this darker blue, another one here. You might get more of the teal, or you might get this one that has a little touch of brown in it. So you're going to get a 15-inch piece of this. And it's going to be enough in here between the lining and this fabric to probably be able to make 2 of them, one with the fringe, one with the out. But I'll go through all of that. So you're going to have one of these pieces that's in here. But today we're going to be making this one right here with our little fringe and showing you how to do the Chicago screws on here, or if you happen to have your own rivets, you can do your own rivets, but a lot of people don't have the rivet machine, so I wanted to show you how you can use the Chicago screws to use for this, and they work fantastic if you're making one out of denim. So that's all the product that we have that's in it. So I'm going to go ahead and set all of these aside. And we will get started on putting our project together. I'm going to show you some examples of some of the ones that I have made. and I'm going to talk about some different things that you can do as for fringe. So this one I made out of just regular, just a pretty piece of fabric on here, but this fringe here is made out of batik, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to make some fringe. So I have this one here. This one I made just out of the same fabric as the main body, and I just also fringed it. The trick is by placing it and on the bias, so that when you cut your strips and then you pull it and fray it, it will give you this fun look here. Here is another one that I've done in a different colorway using our fringe that you have in your kit. And all of these have the little flap on here, and they all have a pocket on the inside. Now here's a couple that I had done without the flap, just so they could see the look of it without the flap, and then having where you can attach your straps on here. Here's another one in a different colorway, and this one has the Chicago screws on it. If you'll notice on this one, here's where I had some rivets, some real pretty rivets. Here's one done in a different colorway without the fringe. Changed up the color of the flap that's on the inside, and here's our lining on the inside of this one. Now this originally started off as a project done with blue jeans, some denim blue jeans. So I have a couple of them here where I had made them out of some of my husband's jeans that he don't wear no more. So here's one made out of the denim, and here's where we cut it so that the pocket, the back pocket, is on the crossbody bag. Added the flap to this one. You can make it with or without the flap. Here's where I made some fringe out of some cord. And it's super, super easy to do, to make your own fringe. So you have that kind of a boho look. You can make it out of like this cording here. You could make it out of ribbon. You can make it all different ways that you can do it. So this one here, again, this one's done with this cording here. I believe this is 2mm satin cord. Here is another one that's laid out of denim. Again, just a regular pocket that you cut out of your jeans to put whatever fun fabric that you want to use for your lining and for your pocket. And I also used the belt loops for adding your D-rings on here, and then I took off one of the leather pieces that was on the jeans. This one's from his Lee jeans, and I just stitched it onto the back. So you can change these up to look however you want them to be, personalize them. And then I wanted to show you one more. I made this one. This one's made out of a piece of canvas. And how fun is this fringe? This is just like some burlap that I had found, some cord here. And I was able to make a really cute fringe with this one, change up the hardware to match it a little bit more. But this one was absolutely a lot of fun. Had a lot of the ladies downstairs say, hey, I want you to make one just like that one. And just did a nice little pretty light colored print on the inside, or fabric on the inside. Because I think when you're doing a bag, you kind of want a lighter fabric on the inside so that you can see inside of it. But these are all so much fun to make, and they go together so quickly. So I also wanted to tell you about when you're pulling out a pair of jeans, they can be whatever you might have. And the ones that have the most grunge to them, the better, because that's going to really show some flair, some personality. Look at these pair of jeans I'm going to make a set out of. These are a pair of jeans my husband has had forever. And they got paint on them. So it'll be really fun to be able to make one out of this. And I found some really cute patterns where you can make a pocket or a little bag out of the front. And one day I might even be able to do a video on how I made some that way. But this all started because Shannon had me make some bags this year out of her dad's pants. And so I fell in love with it so much that I just thought you guys would absolutely love making these also, because they really go together in minutes. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to set some of these things aside, and we're going to get started. You've got full written instructions on putting this together. And like I said, it goes together quickly. So some of the supplies you need, I already talked about. You're going to have them in your kit. You're going to need your swivel. I have, of course, the swivel lobster claw clasp, whatever you'd want to use for that. You're going to need some D-rings. On this one, I'm using the 3/4 inch The magnetic snap, I have the Chicago screws. Now, some of the other tools that you're going to find useful for this, you're going to need a marking pencil so you can mark where your snap is going to be. Of course, your rotary cutter. You're going to need some pinking shears for if you're going to trim the curve around your flap. Of course, you're going to need some clips. Now, when I'm putting together the Chicago screw, you're going to need a screwdriver. So I have a couple of them right here, a flathead screwdriver. And sometimes when you're trying to tighten it down, the other side of the Chicago screw will kind of spin on you. So if you have some pliers, like maybe a needle nose pliers, to kind of hold that while you're tightening it down, and I'll show you when we go to install one of the Chicago screws. So this is pretty much everything that you need to put everything together. So the first thing that I'm going to have you do is when you get your fabric out, you're going to go ahead and get it nice and flat and iron it. Just get it all nice and flat. And then you're going to take your piece of your interfacing and you're going to go ahead and fuse that to your exterior piece. You have enough here to be able to do both of the exterior pieces. You're going to be cutting out 2 of the main body and 1 for the, if you're doing the flap, 1 for the flap, and then you're going to have, with the lining, you're going to cut out 2 of the lining pieces with the large body, and then 1 for the lining. And then you're also going to cut out, with the main exterior fabric, you're going to cut out your pieces for your D-rings. So they are cut, you're going to need 2 of them that are 4 by 2.5 inches. So you're going to cut those, and then you're going to also cut your pocket, which is 6.5 inches by 15. And since the fabric is 15 inches wide, you'll be able to cut it straight from your piece, just cut a 6.5 inch piece off. So I'm going to go ahead and set these aside. I'm going to grab some fabric that I have here in front of me. So here is my piece, and I've got my fusible already on here. So you've got to cut out 2 of the body pieces, one of the if you're going to be doing the flap for the main flap, so you're going to cut out 1 of those, and then you're going to cut out 2 from the main lining. So let me talk about the templates. I'm going to show them to you right here. So your templates have denim body, crossbody on here, or crossbody template on here, and they're an A and a B. So, and the little I and V on here is because I have written instructions and there's a video, which you're watching right now. Now, there's also a mark, a little hole up here on top. This is your placement for your snap, if you're going to be putting the snaps with the flap. Now, if you're not going to be having the flap on yours, but you still need to have a placement for your magnetic, I don't have that on here. In the instructions, I talk about how you measure 1.5 inches down from center on both of the lining pieces so that you'll install your magnetic snap onto there, so it will snap on the inside if you're making one without the flap. So the first thing I want you to do, though, with your template, so that you can be able to utilize this hole, is with a pencil, kind of go in from the front so that you can see where it is on the back side. Then you're going to take your scissors, I'm using my precision scissors, and I'm going to go where I had placed that from the back side, and I'm going to kind of rotate this around to kind of widen out that hole. And you're going to repeat that not for the main body, template A, but you're also going to repeat that for the B. Go in from the back and just kind of, route out that hole just a little bit so that you'll be able to see when you're doing your marking. So that prepares the template for that. So once you have that done, now we're at the point where we're going to be starting to cut out all of our pieces. So you've got to cut out, first you're going to cut out 2 of the main body. So I'm just going to take my fabric and I'm going to lay it on here, kind of folding it back so I can cut them both out at the same time. I'm going to place my template on here, and we're just going to cut out the 2. So you need 2 for the exterior, 2 for the lining. So I'm just going to roll this over just a little bit more. And then you need to cut 1 for your optional flap. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out, kind of saving on my fabric a little bit. And again, you're going to cut this, you're going to cut out your lining and your exterior fabric. And get those all cut out for this one. And then you're going to go ahead and cut your piece for your flaps. So I'm going to go ahead and just set this on this little piece that I have here. And we're going to cut this over, cut around this. And you're going to cut out one of the exterior and one for your lining. Now you're also going to need, once you have all of your pieces cut, you need to get your centers found on all of them. So be sure to just go ahead and fold them in half, all of the pieces, and then you're going to take a little nip off the top and the bottom of all the pieces of the lining and the exterior. So just marking your centers, getting your centers, because you're going to use that part for a lot of the lining up. So mark all of the centers on all of your pieces. I just like to fold it in half and then just take this little bit of nip off each end, just a little bit. So you're going to do that for your exterior, for your lining. Now for your flap also, you're going to fold it in half. And I'm also going to do a little nip on each side of it also. It's just going to help when we're lining everything up on all of our pieces. So there is a little bit of prep work that we have to do prior to doing all of our sewing. So once you have all of your pieces all cut out, now you're also going to cut out while you're cutting, let's go ahead and get our 6.5 inch pocket. So it's 6.5 inches by 15. So I'm just going to lay this on here so I can get my pieces all cut. Because we actually fold this in half and then we stitch it, we sew it down. So you're going to get my ruler out and we're going to get that cut. This one's a little bit short, so I'm going to grab a piece right here. It's 15 inches wide, so you're just going to go ahead and cut a 6.5 inch strip all the way across. This is going to be used for your for the pocket on the lining. So we're getting all of our cutting done first. Six and a half inches, and it's already 15 inches. So this is our piece for our pocket. And then our little piece that we have to cut out for the one that we're having to cut out for for making our little tabs that we put our D-rings on. You're going to cut two little pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and get the measurement. It is 2.5 inches by 4 inches. So you're going to cut two pieces that are 4.5 inches by, or 4 inches by 2.5 inches. So I'm going to just go ahead and just lay this on here, and we're going to get our 2.5 inches cut, and then bring it down to, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 8 inches, and then I'll cut this in half. So you need two pieces that are 4 inches by 2.5. Now I'm going to measure this to 2.5 inches and trim this down. And then we're going to go ahead and cut this one in half. So we'll have our two pieces, 2.5 by 4. So you'll need these two pieces for our tabs when we make them. So I'm going to set those aside. So the first thing we need to do once we have all of our pieces cut out is that we need to go ahead and mark on our lining. I'm going to go ahead and get my lining cut. So let's get our pieces cut for the lining because we have to cut 2 of the main body. And then we also have to cut 1 of the flaps. Go ahead all the way up. I'm going to show you how we get all of our markings done. So here is our main body, our lining for the main. I'm folding them both in half so I can go ahead and mark my centers. Have those done. Now I only need 1 for the flap here, so I'm just going to take the 1 piece, place my template on here, and we're going to go ahead and get this one cut out. And just like we did for the exterior, we need to find the center of this one. So I'm going to fold it in half, lining up my edges. We're going to catch that one here and then on the side with the curve. So the first thing we have to do is let's go ahead and get our marking done for our magnet placement. So on the wrong side, have it wrong side up, reposition your template back into place for the flap, because we're going to go ahead and mark this one first. So I'm going to take my pencil, I'm just going to put it right there in that little hole that we had prepared. So we know this is where the placement for the snap is going to be. So we have that one done, and if you want to go ahead and do that onto your exterior, or you can wait towards the end and make sure you get it right. But I'm going to go ahead and get my exterior piece ready. And we are going to mark the hole on that one. So just like that, you're going to flip it over just like I've already done here. I'd set my template on here, and then I'd mark it so I know this is the placement for my magnetic snap. So when I'm putting all of this together, we're going to start with getting our snap on here. I like to put what I call the male piece on the flap right here. So it's the one that has the little bump that bumps up in the center. So you're going to take your, you also have the little piece of material in here, heavy duty interfacing, so that you can be able to get this in there. It kind of helps and secures it, gives it a little bit more strength to it. So how to get this set up, you're going to take one of your round washers that has the little holes in it, and you're going to set it onto that center circle. You're going to set it on here, and you're going to mark the side little dashes right here. And then you're going to go ahead and with either your scissors or your seam ripper, you're going to go ahead and open that up. You're just going to cut right there, create the little slits right there so that you can put the prongs through. And then you're also going to do it onto your piece for your lining. So this one is the lining, this is the flat piece. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my little circle. Takes a minute to get my fingers on there, and I'm going to place the circle right there on that hole, right there on that dot, and I'm going to go ahead and draw my little lines in here so I know that's where I have to put my little cut in here. And like I said, you can use your little seam ripper, or you can use your precision scissors just to get it started. And then you're going to take the piece and you're going to feed it through, bringing it to the back, and then you're going to place your little heavy material, the heavy interfacing on, there's your washer, and then you're going to push your prongs out to the side. or to the inside, however you want to do it. I push mine out to the inside. So this piece is ready. Then you're going to do this also for your exterior piece. So you're going to get this one all set up. So you get your little holes marked. I already have them here. Now I'm going to do the one that had the larger piece that has the magnet. So from the front side, I'm going to go ahead and push it through. Get my little heavy interfacing piece. Place it on. And then grab my washer and push it on. Now I found that when I'm doing the denim ones that have the pocket, I put this piece on last if I have that pocket on the outside so that I can just measure and make sure where it's going to fall on the actual pocket part. But if we're doing it like this one right here with just a regular fabric, then I go ahead and put it on here to have it ready so that you'll know that when these are all, when it's all sewed, it's going to fit right there into that spot where you need for it to be. Right, so next we're going to, once we have that done, that prep work you had to get done, then let's go ahead and we're going to grab our two pieces of for our flap, and we're going to go ahead and get these all sewed up. So you're going to take the two pieces and you're going to place them right sides together, matching up the notches that you had created. And then we're going to sew this, and then we're going to also top stitch it. So put a couple of clips in. We're going to sew from this edge going all the way around this curve and finishing here. We're not sewing this straight edge here. We're going to be sewing this curve edges here, the two sides, the curve, and then the short end. So we're getting everything lined up. So I'm getting everything ready for all of our sewing. So this is going to be sewed. And then before we even do our next step of sewing, let's go ahead and get our two pieces of for our tabs. Let's figure out where I set those here. So we need to go to the ironing station. We're going to iron these in half. We're going to take the ends, the two short ends, we're going to fold them over by about 1/2 inch on both sides. And then we're going to press it in half and then fold in both of our sides and then fold it over. So when we have it completed, it's going to look like this. So we're going to go to the iron. We're going to get this prepared. So you're going to fold over each of the ends. And then we're going to get that ready. So I'm trying to get all of our little bit steps of sewing done before we even go to putting everything together. So you've got to, before we go putting everything together, we've got to get our snaps on there. We need to get our little tabs ready. We need to get our flap ready. And then with your little piece of fringe, we're also going to need to find the center, but we got to trim it up a little bit. But we won't trim that up until we get more towards where at that point. So let's go over to the iron. I'm going to show you again pressing these to get it ready for all of our sewing. So again, these are 4 inches by 2.5 inches. So you're going to fold these over about 1/2 inch on each end and give it a press. About 1/2 inch. Then you're going to fold it in half, mark a crease, and then we're going to fold each of our ends into that center. Each of the two sides, we're folding them back into that center. So you open it back up, fold your center, fold the ends in, matching up to that center. Do the other side. Matching that in. And then once you have that ready, then you're just going to fold it in half and then give it a good press. Then we're going to stitch all 4 sides of it. So you're going to do that to both of your pieces. All right, so that's, again, you have both your pieces done. So this is our first step of our sewing. We're going to take our flap and we're going to take our 2 pieces and we're going to stitch. Now, the little tabs we're just going to stitch all the way around about 1/8 of an inch on here. So I'm going to just kind of line it up. And we're going to give it just a stitch all the way around. Got a little bit of bulk here, so if you have one of those little jean jumpers, it might help with your machine when it's going around some of these edges. One more stitch. I'm trying to get as close as I can to the edge. Here's where I might need my little jumper. Got a little bulk right here. One more stitch. Set my little jumper here. Stitch across. And then coming back where we met. And you're going to do that to both of those pieces. And now we're going to stitch all around our, this is for our optional flap. So we're just going to stitch all around here, but not across this edge here. We're going to leave that edge open. So this one here is just 1/4 inch all the way around. And coming up to the edge. All right, so you got this little curve right here, so you either need to clip it or you can get your pinking shears and you can go ahead and trim away some of that to kind of release some of that tension that's right there on that curve, because we're going to flip it right side out and press it. And then we're going to top stitch it. So that's our next step of stitching that we need to do. All right, so let's go back over to the ironing station and get this finished. So I'm opening it up, flipping it right side out. I'm going to press out all of my seams nice and flat, pushing them out. And then we're going to iron this and we're going to top stitch all the way around. A little more of a push right here. This is just getting it all ready because we're going to be attaching this and it's going to be ready to go when we get to that point. But we're going to put a pretty top stitch all the way around it. All right, so once you have that done, let's go ahead and get it top stitched. So I'm just going to do 1/8 of an inch all the way around this, the edge, the area that you had just stitched. So I'm going to raise my stitch length up a little bit. And we're going to try to stay about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so once you have that done, so that's the big prep work that you needed to get done for this before we go to attaching it to our the main body. So you have both of these sewed and you have this sewed right here. So set these aside. Now let's go ahead and get our pocket ready. So our pocket was the piece that we had just cut that was the 6.5 inches by 15 inches. 6.5 inches by 15 inches. That's this one right here. So we're going to take this and we're going to place it, we're going to fold this in half, right sides together. So here's another thing of stitching that we're going to be doing. So now we're going to stitch all the way around, 1/4 inch, but at the very bottom we're going to probably leave about a 1 or about a 2-inch opening here on the bottom. So we're going to stitch this, and then we're going to flip it out, and then we're going to top stitch across this piece right here, and then we're going to attach it to our lining. So again, you're just taking your piece that was the 6.5 by 15, fold it in half, right sides together, matching up your edges. And now we're going to stitch starting at the fold, and we're going to do 1/4 inch all the way around, leaving an opening for turning. Wrapped around my needle. There we go. So I'm leaving my opening about 1 or 2 inches, back tacking, and then coming right back up to the top. We're going to go ahead and trim a little bit of our corners off so we have a nice crisp corner here. Get some of this bulk off. Now let's go and turn this right side out and press this and then top stitch across that fold. Just reaching in there and get it all flipped out. And whatever turning tool that you have to kind of press all of your edges out. And this is, again, this is the little bit of a pocket that's going to be on the inside. We attach this to our one of our lining pieces. And then you're going to tuck in your little opening. And we're going to give this a press. And we're going to stitch across this top right here. We're going to give it a top stitch. So where it's folded is where we're going to do a stitch across. And then we're going to put this onto our lining and we'll get this stitched down. All right, so going back to our sewing machine, we're going to top stitch it. And I'm just going to do about 1/8 inch all the way across, raising my stitch length up. Now we haven't closed that opening yet. We just did that top stitch across this fold. The opening is going to get closed when we attach it to our lining. So grabbing one of our linings that we had set aside and we'd marked our centers, I'm going to go ahead and give it another fold, and I'm going to kind of crease it. I'm needing to see that center. I need to see where that fold, the center is, because that's going to help me in lining up my pocket. So I'm going to fold my pocket in half. And I'm just going to place it and center it on here. However you might want. So you'll see it's going to be pretty much centered onto your lining piece. Now we're going to just stitch it down here and here. So here's where you might grab a couple of pins to hold it. And I don't have a pin with me. So we're going to stitch it here. I wonder where my pins are. You got to feed this one through. Okay, so I got a couple pins. I'm just going to put a couple pins in here, and we're just going to hold it, just to hold it in place. And we're going to stitch all the way around, leaving this opening. That's our pocket. And when we go to stitch across this bottom, it's going to close this opening right here. Staying really closest to the edges. And then giving a good back tack up here on the top, because that's where a lot of stress is going to be, at the very top here. All right, so now your pocket is on here. Go ahead and get your pins out. So you have your piece that has its pocket. So now you've got your piece with a pocket and one without the pocket. So now you're going to take these two pieces right here, your two lining pieces, and you're going to place them right sides together, and be sure to have it where the stitched piece right here is going to be at the bottom, and you're going to stitch this across, but you're going to stitch it at 5/8 of an inch. So you're going to have a thicker seam allowance here instead of a 1/4 inch. So what I do, I just put my needle in the middle, and I'm going to stitch 5/8 of an inch all the way across on our lining piece. So you take your two linings together again, place them right sides together, making sure that this is not going to be the side that's sewed, and we're going to stitch this across. So I'm lining up the our centers marks, and we're going to stitch this across at about 5/8 of an inch. So once you have all of this done, so this is your lining part is pretty much all complete. So we're just going to take this and we're going to set this aside. Now we're going to go back to our exterior pieces. So you've got your piece for your flap is done. You should have both of your pieces sewed for your D-rings. So you'll have those ready to go. Now we're going to start with the fringe. So I want you to get your fringe, and we need to trim this up. Now if you measure this piece right here, your exterior piece, it should measure 8.5 inches. So we are needing to trim this fringe to less than 8.5 inches. I was first trying it at 8 inches. I felt it needed to be slightly smaller than that. So I am trimming mine between 7.5 to 7 3/4. That's where I feel it's easiest to work with, because you don't want to get this caught up when we're sewing our side edges together. So you're going to line this up on the line on your mat, and you're going to look at how the fringe is going, and I'm going to trim it to whichever one is where I'm not cutting off one of these fringe pieces. So for me on this piece, it's going to be just shy of 8 or 7 3/4. So I'm just going to trim it right here to this little spot right here. So I'm taking that out, and I am just a little more than 7.5 inches on this piece right here. So once you have this trimmed, now you're going to take it and you're going to fold it in half, matching up the two edges. And we're going to mark our center on this, just like we've done on all of our pieces. So fold it in half. I'm going to put this little nip right here, so I know that's my center. So I'm going to lay this onto our exterior piece on that center that we had marked earlier. So taking our piece, one of our exterior pieces, we're going to place this on here and matching up our center. And I already have this one all done so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm lining up the center up where we had clipped it onto the center mark of our exterior piece right here. And I'm going to clip it there. And you should see when you slide it all the way over to the edge, you should have about a 1/4 inch, maybe just slightly more than a 1/4 inch between the edge of the fringe to the edge of your your exterior of a piece of the bag, the body of the bag. And going all the way over to the other side. And put as many clips as you feel comfortable using just to hold it all in place. So I've got the 3, 4, I got 5 clips in here. So this one here is done where I don't have the snap on this one. So now you're going to take your other exterior piece and you're going to sandwich between these. So you're going to take it and place it right sides together with your snap more towards the other end. And we're going to lay this on here, matching up our edges. So I'm going to start with my center and I'm going to reposition my clips so that we can sandwich everything in between. So now we have our 2 exterior pieces with our fringe sandwiched in the middle. Everybody with me? All right, so now we're going to just stitch 5/8 of an inch all the way across here. I didn't feel that I wanted to, because this is not real leather, it's kind of very soft. If you pull on it, it could damage it. So I only really wanted to have 1 layer of stitching on here holding all this together. So I didn't want to pre-stitch it or baste it on there and then do another stitching. So I wanted to just go ahead and have it sandwiched between so that we catch all 3 pieces when we sew this together. So again, so you've got your piece with with the snap, magnetic snap, and then the piece that doesn't have any snaps on it in between. So let's go ahead and get this stitch down at that 5/8 of an inch. So make sure all of your fringe is laying away so you're not going to inadvertently catch any of it in your stitching. And we're going to stitch this at a 5/8 of an inch all the way down. Okay, so this is what you should be looking at, where it's all stitched. All right, so now we're going to grab our flap that we had prepared, and we're going to go ahead and get this stitched on. So on the opposite side so like imagine this is your bag and this is coming over. So you want this to be stitched down on the piece that has no snap on it, and you're going to lay it onto the other side that doesn't have the snap on, right sides together, and you're going to go ahead and line up your centers. When you're lining up your center here, you should have a 1/4 of an inch overage on both sides of the flap. So I go ahead and line up my centers, and we're going to put a clip there at that center. And then I'm going to clip it here on this edge where you have a 1/4 of an inch, and then on this edge where I should have a 1/4 of an inch. Now we're going to stitch this down all the way across. Now this one here is a regular 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, so not the 5/8. So put this back on your 1/4, and we're just going to stitch our flap down. Now you could go all the way across. I'm just stitching the flap. Okay, we are almost done, and you just don't even realize how close to being done you are. So you should have a piece that looks like this. You've got your flap on one end, you've got your fringe on here. This is your exterior of your bag. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and start getting the full assembly done. So now we're going to grab our lining like this. This is our lining piece. And we're going to place this right sides together onto our exterior piece. And wherever you put your pocket is where the side it's going to be on the inside of the bag. And I want mine to be on the side that's not where the snap is. So my pocket is going to be on the side where I have my flap. So I'm placing this right sides together. And I'm going to go ahead and line up my centers. So sandwiched between here is my exterior, my flap, and now my lining. So I'm going to go ahead and put these onto here, and I'm going to put a clip where I've got all of my centers marked. And we're going to go ahead and clip it all the way across on this side, and we'll do it on the other side. Flip it over, and we'll get the centers lined up. And clip that and get this all sewed. One more here. All right, now we're going to stitch this one and stitch this side. We're going to stitch both of these at 1/4 of an inch on each end. Come back to the other side and get this side done. All right, so once you get that done, now we're going to be sewing up our sides. So this is what we had just stitched. So it looks kind of like this. Now we're going to reposition this so that we'll be able to sew our sides up. So we're just going to grab this and we're going to line up our lining and our exterior fabrics together. So here's where it gets a little tricky. You want to be sure to not catch any of your fringe when you go to sew down this side, but you also want to be sure to not catch this piece of your flap when you're sewing this down. So what I recommend is I kind of line up these seams, match up these seams so they kind of nest a little bit. I'm going to put a clip here, but I am very careful when I am sewing, when I get to this section right here, so that I stay right at that 1/4 of an inch, do not get any wider than that, so that my stitch will run right along this edge right here, but not catch any of my flap. And then when I'm sewing this side, I'm making sure all of the fringe has been pushed over so I can sew this side all the way down. And then I'm going to leave an opening. I'm going to do it on this piece right here. I'm going to leave an opening. Since I don't want to hurt the fringe, I'm going to leave my opening just a little bit wider. So I think I have this opening at about 3.5 inches right here. So we're going to stitch all the way down, back tack here, and just leave this opening for turning. And then when we do the other side, we're going to also get our fringe out of the way. Same thing, kind of match up these centers, match up these seams right here. Put a clip here, but also being very careful when we go to sew this side that we don't catch our flap, and we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch all the way down without leaving an opening. But each time you got to make sure you got your fringe all moved out of the way. All right, so let's go ahead and get the side sewed up. Push all that fringe out of the way. 1/4 of an inch all the way down. And we're coming up to this area where the flap is. So I'm kind of going to push it over. When you do that though, it kind of creates this bulk that kind of makes it hard for the foot to go over. So I'm just kind of sliding it over as best I can without creating this big bulky area. And we're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch all the way down. Coming up onto our seam, keeping it at that 1/4. And leaving our opening. All right, now we're going to do our other side. So same thing, kind of get all the fringe out of the way. Just kind of tucking it down in there and do that 1/4 inch stitching down both sides on the other side. Coming up onto this area where you've got your flap, so we're going to be very careful to not stitch that. And then stitching all the way down. Okay, so now we're getting ready. We're going to turn this out and we're going to get it ready. But one of the things I like to do is try to remove some of this bulk that's right here down on these bottom corners, particularly on this piece right here where the main body is. So I'm just going to kind of notch that out just right here on the edges. Just taking a little bit of it out right here. So now this is all ready, so now we're going to go ahead and turn it. So we're finding our opening. Going to reach down in here and we're going to carefully grabbing our pieces and pulling it out without pulling on the fringe. This is not a true leather, it's kind of a faux leather, so I don't want to rip it or pull it. Pushing it all the way out. Let's go over to our ironing station where I can kind of push everything out. We're going to give it a little bit of an iron, but don't get your iron onto the fringe on these pieces. I'm pushing out our corners. I'm letting my tool do the pushing out and then running just giving a good press out. And then we're going to do the other side, just kind of pushing it out. Running across the bottom and across the side, pushing everything out. Now we've got to close our openings, so I'm going to get my seams tucked in, and I'm going to sew it with my sewing machine, but you could hand stitch that opening closed if you want. I am just going to press it. And we're going to stitch that opening closed. And then we're going to tuck in our lining, and then we're going to get ready to start adding our D-rings. So I'm just going right there along that edge, about 1/8 of an inch in. The way I say it's not seen, but you could hand stitch that close. So now you're just going to take your lining and you're just going to tuck it down inside the bag. Get it all tucked down in that corners. So the last thing we got to do is a top stitch. So let's go back to the ironing station. I'm going to press this and we're going to do a top stitch right here around the opening here. So I'm going to kind of push it all out, kind of get it nice and even. And I'm going to press this and we're going to top stitch it. Give this a press. And I find that if I take this flap and tuck it on the inside and then press it also, it's going to lay over a little bit easier. So I'm tucking it in. I'm going to give that a press right there to create a little bit of a fabric memory. You should see that it will be nice. It will, your seams, your magnetic snaps should just fit right onto there. But we're going to go ahead and top stitch this right here, all along this little edge right here. I mean, you don't have to, but I just think it makes it look a little bit nicer just to top stitch that. But I'm going to just give it a quick little top stitch. So I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to pull up my threads for this one because I don't want my threads to create a bird's nest on the other side. All right, I'm going to give this a little bit of a top stitch all the way around. And raise my stitch length up, and off we go. All right, coming up to the other side and give it a back tack. Okay, so this is pretty much the main body of your bag, and she is all done. You got your little top stitch, you got your little flap on here. So the only thing left to do is to add our Chicago screws, or if you want to use rivets, however you want to do to attach your D-rings. So you have both of your pieces done and sewn. So go ahead and take one of your D-rings and fold it and slip it onto your piece. Let's see, I have the other one right here. So I'm going to grab my 2 pieces, get all my threads off of here. I'm going to get my D-ring and I'm going to slip my D-ring through. And I'm going to go ahead and clip it because I don't want to inadvertently attach my tab without my D-ring on here. So ask me how I know. So be sure to go ahead and get your D-ring on and put a clip in there just so that it's holding it in place. So now here's where we're going to go ahead and get our Chicago screws installed onto our bag. Now again, you can do rivets or you can do the Chicago screws. You've got the Chicago screws, and that's what I have on this bag. I got the Chicago screws onto here. So this is where you're going to need your template, and I'm going to show you why. Because we're going to be using our tool. This is our screw punch, so it's going to make the hole in here. So if you look at your Chicago screws, they are 6 millimeter, and it's a pretty good size little hole that you got to feed this end through, the one that has the threads in it. So I'm going to get this down. I'm going to take this one off. I want it to be slightly smaller than the one I have on here. So it's easy to do. You take this, you take the cap off. You're going to get your attachments. And I don't want my hole to be as big as this right here, as the screw. So I want it to be slightly smaller than that, because I'll be able to feed it through. Let me see which one I want. I think it's this one right here. It's slightly smaller than this piece that's on the Chicago screw. So you put your attachment in, grab the screw cap, and then you tighten this on. Now this is where I like to use the template, because I don't want to poke a hole into my mat, because it will go all the way through. So I like to get my piece that has the D-ring on there, and I'm going to go ahead and pre-make my holes onto my tabs first before I get ready to put them onto here. To give it the stability that you're looking for, a single rivet makes it kind of slide. So if you put the 2 rivets in, or the 2 in, it's not going to be as loose. And I'm going to show you how that is. I actually have one that I've only put one of the rivets in. I think that is, let's see. You can see it's just not stable. It had a tendency to swivel or move, like this one here. I only used one, so it just moved by just putting the single rivet in. Now this one here is where I don't have the flap, so the rivet is on the inside. But it just had too much movement here. Whereas if you use the 2 on it, let me grab one with the Chicago screws. This one right here. So when you do the 2, this doesn't spin. It won't spin. It's going to hold it and it'll be more stable. So I like to put my screw punch my 2 holes into here first. So I'm going to set this down on my template with my D-ring in here. And I'm going to put, I'm going to do it here. I'm going to place a hole here and a place hole here. It's wherever you want it to be. So I'm pretty close to where the D-ring is. So I say I'm about a ½ inch from it, but I'm in the center. And you just set your end piece onto your tab, and you're just going to push it down. It's going to spin. And you're going to feel when it's going all the way through the fabric as it's done here. So there's my first one, and now I'm going to go down about a little bit more than a ½ inch, I would say, towards the end, and I'm going to put my second set right here. So there's my 2 hole placements for this one. I'm going to go ahead and get that done for the other one. Try to get it in the same spots, lining this up sort of, and then we're going to put it here. Find my center. Might need to retighten it. And then we're going to get our second set in right here. Just kind of holding it as it spins and cuts it down. So that's good to have your template on the back side so it doesn't cut into your mat. So those are ready. So now we're going to go ahead and start to set them into our main body piece. And they get installed on the back side. So take your template and you're going to place it on the inside of the bag, because you do not want to get that hole going all the way through to the front. So take your template, place it on the inside, and just smooth it out nice and smooth. Getting everything nice and even right here, because we're going to install it right here. And it's going to be about a ½ inch, between 1/4 and a ½ inch from the side seam. So taking one that we had just done, I'm going to lay it on here, and I want it's your preference where you want your D-ring to set. But I have the D-ring sitting where it's just, so I have the top of the fold right underneath this seam by about 1/8 inch. I could line it up to where it's even, so I've got the fold right here even with this seam. So I've laid this on here, and now I'm going right into the holes that I had just placed, and I'm just a 1/2 inch from the seam here. And this is where the 2 holes are going to be made. So I'm just placing it right into the place where I'd already drilled the holes in. Now we're going to put it into the bag here and here. So now you see it's going all the way through here. Let's go ahead and get the other side done. So I'm going to take my template and I'm going to put it on the other side. Same thing, get it right up against that edge, smoothing everything out. Don't want no wrinkles or bubbles underneath here. Getting my other tab, and I'm going to set it on here since I had that fold to be right there lining up with the top edge. I'm going to try to do the exact same thing on this side. And we're going to make our spots right here. All right, so then you got both of your holes placed into here. So it should have went through the lining and the exterior all the way through. All right, so let's get our Chicago screws out. So it's depends on how you want yours to look. I prefer to have it where it's the solid pieces on the outside. This I wanted to show you here where I also installed it, where I have the piece where you tighten it with your screwdriver on the outside. So you can have it either way. They look good either way, however you want it to be. But we're going to put ours where this piece right here, the solid, is going to be on the outside, and you're going to tighten it from the inside. So I push my piece through the material, through my tab. You got 2 pieces here, so you got to go through all of those. And then I'm going into the bag and I'm matching it up through the holes that we had just made on the inside of this one. So we're going to start with that one. So once you have the one through, now this is the piece that has the where you use your screwdriver to drill it. I'm just going to go ahead and twist it on there and get it started. Then we'll do the other one. Not tightening it yet. Just a little bit of finagling just to get the threads to line up, match up. Just finger tightening. All right, I'm going to grab the next one, do the same thing. Going through the pieces of the tab that we pre-drilled. Kind of pushing it through. And then you're going to find the opening for the lining here. And then you're going to put your other piece through it. I need to make that hole a little bigger. I can't see it. So if that happens, then just go back to ground where you haven't, just start again. Be sure to get your template in first. You need to have remark that hole. I didn't get through the one very well. I see it right there. Lost my tool. Here we are. There it is. All right, so we can feed it through. And then get the screw piece to thread up. And this is where you're going to need your screwdriver to tighten these down. And this is where you might find you're going to need to have the pliers too. Because they kind of have it, when you're trying to tighten it, it wants to spin. So I get it as tight as I can before I know that it's spinning. And this is where you can grab some pliers or your needle nose pliers and you can hold it. I'm going to just grip it and kind of hold it on one side. And then I'm going to take my screwdriver and I'm going to tighten it down from here. That way it's not spinning and you can get it nice and tight. What I really like about using rivets, even the Chicago screws, particularly if you're working with really heavy fabric like the denims, you're not having to put your machine through all of that heavy work, heavy sewing, not needle breaking by using rivets to kind of hold everything in place. So I got the one side done, and then you're going to go ahead and do both sides until you have them both installed. So now let's go ahead. Once you have that done, you are almost done. So now we just got to make our strap with our sliders. So let's go ahead and get started on that. I'm going to get all these things out of the way because you're done with your screw punch. So now you need to grab your 2 lobster claw clasps and your slider, your 1-inch slider. And you're also going to get your piece of webbing. You've got 1.5 yards of the webbing. We're going to use every bit of it. So you got like 54 inches of it. So I'm pulling this one off so you can see how we go to do this. When you're looking at your slider, we're going to start with the slider. Taking a look at the slider, you're going to see that there's a right side and there's a wrong side. The wrong side is where you've got the 2 pieces as they wrapped around here. So you're going to want this to be up, your right side up, the wrong side down, like this. And then you're going to take your strap. I'm going to set it like this. So my right side is up. And we're going to first attach this piece where we're going to stitch it down. So taking our long strap first, you're going to come up from the back side. Remember, I have it up. I have my right side up. So I'm coming up, and then I'm going to come back down through the metal bar. And I'm lining it up like this. I want my seam, I want my raw edge to be right here. The raw edge to be up. All of the strap is now on this end. So on one end, we're going to go through that again so you can see what I'm doing. I have my slider up, the right side up, and I'm going to come up as I'm looking at it on the right side of it, going over that central bar and slipping it back through. Positioning it about 3 inches or 2 inches from the edge of this bar. Now we're going to stitch this down right here. Stitch this down. So I'm going to go ahead and do this in the black so you can see it. But I'm going to stitch this down just like I have right here. We're going to just stitch it across. But what I would do is I would stitch across, kind of stitch your box. So I'm going to stitch that box so you can see what it is I'm doing. So I'm putting my machine needle back in middle, and I'm going to stitch across. So I'm doing my box here. Stitching down the edge. I'm going to continue going around. I'm stitching my box, and then we're going to stitch across the box and a big X. So I'm back where I started. Now I'm going to stitch to the other corner. And then we're going to do the other corner. So I'm going back across. And then we're going to come up the other side. Up the other X. We're creating the other side of the X. So creating this box, there's my raw edge. So I went up and over. And now I have all this edge, all this piece right here on the end. So I'm going to grab my first D-ring or lobster claw clasp, and I'm just going to feed it through. It's a swivel, so I'm just feeding it through. Now I've got to go back through this piece right here, so I want you to see where we're at. We feed it through here, then we're going to go up and over. So we're going to go back through our slider, up, pulling it through, and back down, pulling it through the slider. So now we got to get our other lobster claw clasp on here. So then you're just going to go through and then folding it back. About the same 2 to 3 inches. About 2 inches, I suppose. And now we're going to stitch this down, creating our box. And that will be our slider strap. Slide it down just a little bit. So we're going to start with my box. Coming to where we started. And now we're going to do our first X. Go across the bottom again. And do our second X. All right, trim up your threads, and now you should have your strap completely all ready to go by creating your box. Got my little threads on here, so it's all nice and black and white. I would have done this one with white like I had done with this one right here. Once you have that on here, you have completed your crossbody bag. How cool is that? And it is with your adjustable strap, so you can have it where it's a full crossbody by however length you want it to be, or you can bring it all the way up to where it'd be more like a shoulder bag. You could have it as a shoulder bag, or you can have it as a crossbody bag. So this was a fun project, and again, this started because I made a whole bunch of these for Shannon, for all the girls in the family, and they loved them. So. And they were all made out of denim, but I thought, hey, these would look really cute in some fun fabrics. So let me show you again some of the really fun ones that we had done earlier so that you could see them. Again, the sky's the limit on whatever you want your project to be, on how you want it to look. And you know, it started off as doing it for like memory bags, making out of jeans. But why wait? Why wait? Just just have fun playing with them. Again, this one here is out of the same fabrics that you've gotten in your kits, but showing it without the flap and then putting your little D-rings on here and then using the Chicago screws. Here is where you just use some really fun canvas. This is just some fun canvas that I had here in the studio, and making your own little fringe on here. This is just using some of that raffia type burlappy stuff. It's all tangled in here. What a mess. Okay, there we go. So this again, this one was absolutely so much fun. Exact same thing as what we just did, except it's just made with canvas material and then just using some cording to create here. Again, this is creating one using the black for your strapping. Here's one that I had just finished where I actually had this really cool chain for the strap. And again, I just used for the denim ones, I just used the belt loops for your D-ring attachment and the Chicago screws. So this one was actually so much fun. And so when you're cutting these, you're just going to center your template onto the jeans to be able to encompass that pocket, is what I had right here. And what I was talking about here was not placing this on here until I had it finished, so I knew exactly where the flap is going to lay, so I know where the center of the other piece of the magnetic snap would be. But this is the entire project, and I hope you enjoy making these as much as I have. I have made so many of them in so many different colors. Oh, I want to tell you again how to make some really cool fringe out of regular fabric. The way that these work to get it, this one right here, is you're going to cut yourself a big old square, and I want to say probably about a 14-inch square. Then you're going to fold it corner to corner, stitch across it. That's what this was. This is just a square that I had folded so I can get everything on that bias. So when I cut all of my 1/2-inch strips, it was on the bias so I could fray this and pull this and kind of get it twisted. So that's how I was able to make this fringe right here, just like this one right here. Now, why I really liked using the batik for the fringe on this bag is because it is the exact same on both sides. So the batik worked really well for making the fringe on this little bag right here. And I think I doubled it over, so I've got like 4 pieces of it right here, where this here, you can see that this is a single layer, 2 of them, layer fabrics, but you got the right side and the wrong side, but it just gives it another look. But you, again, make your own fringe. There's so many videos out there on how to create some really cool boho fringes out there. So have fun. I hope you enjoyed this one. I can't wait to see the ones that you have made. Again, thank you so much for being a part of the Martelli Sew and Show. Be sure to post your pictures so that you can be in for our next giveaway. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoy it. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody.